Good morning, everybody. It is Tuesday, March 5th, 8:48 a.m. Thank you, everybody, for being with me here today. We got a lot of news. Folks, that's going on today in the broader equity and crypto markets. A couple of headlines we got to run through. A lot of stuff to talk about. SoFi is the big news of the day. You guys might have seen this bad boy is down bad. Currently, right now, SoFi is down 10% in the pre-markets, 8.39%. They issued convertible debt. It's actually, if you read through it, not the biggest thing in the world. The street's going to get them down because the street's always going to get upset as soon as they hear those words. That's what they're doing with MicroStrategy. They're down about 5% in the pre-markets because MicroStrategy also issuing convertible debt. But this is actually really interesting to me because this makes those leaps that I was looking at very attractive in terms of pricing now, given where it opened. So we'll talk about that and we'll discuss kind of what is the nature of this offering and why it's maybe not as bad of a thing as the street's expecting, but of course the street's going to tank it just to tank it. In general, broader markets are down today. SMCI down about 2%. NEO's down 2%. They had earnings. We're going to talk about that. Target had really good earnings. Target right now is up 9.6%. Okay, so Target had good earnings. That's very good for the American consumer. Bitcoin, 67,873. We'll talk about Bitcoin. Bitcoin tried to make all-time highs yesterday. 68,848 is where it topped out. Then it fell back down to about 65,000. So it fell almost $3,000. And then within about 2 minutes, it was right back at 66.5 now at 67.8. Yesterday was the largest or the fifth largest day for inflows into the Bitcoin ETFs at $576 million. So money's coming back into these ETFs. I mean, more inflows are coming, and now it's just going to be a question of where this price ultimately goes. Apple is down in the pre-markets about 2%. Now it's almost going to touch 169 because iPhone sales are down 24% year over year in China. Definitely not the best news for Apple, given that China has been a tough market for them over the past couple months. And Tesla continues to go down. I bought 10 shares of Tesla yesterday. It's down another 2% at 182. We'll see if Tesla goes below 180, and we might have to buy some more Tesla today. All right. Thank you, everybody, for being here with me. Let's get ready for another market open. Adrian, Alex, Mikkel, Felicia, Kite, Miss Yager, Trucker Rob, Shampasta, SoFi, Martin, Darkstar, Steve Lynn, Yeti, Sethy Ross, Fred, Lewis, thank you all for being here. Golden Eagle, Martin, what's up? Lussy Picker, Brandon, Ty Gordon, Colorblind Collector, Tesla. All right, let's get into it. What happened to SoFi overnight? So this is the big news on everyone's mind. Let's talk about SoFi, what's going on, and why SoFi is down. And, you know, I mean, look, if it keeps going down, this might end up being one of the better days to buy SoFi, if we think that this is not that big of a deal. So let's go through this offering. SoFi right now is down about 8%. On the news, this is the headline. I'll read it right now. SoFi is announcing its intention to offer, subject to market and other conditions, $750 million of aggregate principal amounts of convertible senior notes due in 2029. Now, what does that mean? You know, in the most common terms, you kind of want to imagine this like SoFi is a big company and they need to pay for projects, right? To do this, they've decided to basically sell, you could call it special coupons or convertible senior notes for $750 million. These are essentially IOUs that are like, hey, if you give us money now, we promise to pay you back later with a little bit of extra. Those coupons, those convertible notes are special because the people who buy them can later change them into SoFi's common stock, which is the dilution part that the street is worried about, or they can get cash instead. So in 2029, if SoFi stock is, you know, significantly higher than the $7 range, then maybe the people that got that $750 million or gave the $750 million today in convertible senior notes, which are, you know, thousands and thousands of debt offerers that would be willing to be able to give this money, they could potentially own a small part of SoFi if they get their compensation in stock instead. And this obviously means that SoFi is not offering this to retail. They're not saying, hey guys, we have 50 million new shares and anyone can buy them. This is a very private offering to debt holders that are more sophisticated. Now, the thing about this, and I was talking to Chris about this morning as he was reading through the actual filing, and he said to me that the capped call transactions are expected generally to reduce the potential dilution to SoFi's common stock upon any conversion of the notes and or offset of potential cash, meaning that because these are capped call transactions, it's actually in the long term supposed to not dilute shareholders, or either not dilute shareholders or actually take some skin off the table in terms of the overall common stock that exists. So because the conversion is capped, the biggest thing is SoFi has some 0% convertible debt that comes due in 2026. And this is obviously different given that this is in 2029. Now, granted, Cathie Wood bought $7.2 million of SoFi yesterday. So she bought, I think, 782,000 shares. And then SoFi falls 10% the day after. So that's not necessarily the best timing on this. She bought 4.8 million shares a week ago. Overall, is this the worst thing in the world? Not really. I mean, what this looks like to me is that SoFi is trying to buy something. With the money that they get from basically selling these coupons, these IOUs, SoFi wants to do a few things. They want to either pay for the cost of selling these coupons. They want to buy back some other types of IOUs they sold before that cost them more. And we already know they have zero interest debt on 2026, so that's probably not the case. Or they want to do this for general business needs, like maybe paying off debts that are expensing and or buying another company. SoFi might be in the business of saying, hey, let's see if we can buy another mortgage company. Or SoFi saying maybe that there's some acquisition that we're looking on into the future and that it would be exciting to have $750 million to be able to do this right now. The notes will also be redeemable in whole or part at a part of SoFi's option at any time and from time to time and or on March 15, 2027 on or before the 30th scheduled trading date immediately before the maturity date, but only if the last reported sale price per share of SoFi's common stock exceeds 130% of the conversion price. So kind of baked into this offering, SoFi saying, hey, our stock has to go up if the conversion price is $8 to at least, $20, $16, around $18. And that is when that conversion can happen. So I don't think this dilution will be happening. It's not like this is not like a common offering where they're putting shares on the market right now. What it looks like to me is this is going to be, and we'll talk more about it on Finance Junkies tonight, but what it looks like to me is that they're basically saying, hey, we need 750 million. We got to go do something. Here's convertible notes that could turn into stock if you wanted to, or we could just pay it back 5 years from now. In 5 years, SoFi should be able to significantly increase the price of their stock by executing as a business. And if they do that, shareholders probably are not going to care that much that they get diluted in 2029, especially if you're buying right now, because then it really won't have the biggest impact. Or given the capped call transactions on this offering, there won't be any dilution. It will actually reduce dilution based on what I'm looking at in the filing. So that's what we're seeing on SoFi. Now, granted, the market is, I don't want to say overreacting, but the market, why? So people may be saying, okay, so why is it down? Why is it down 8.28%? I mean, you're basically saying that this is not the biggest deal. SoFi doesn't already have a lot of debt. So why is the market acting aggressively like this? What it's signaling to the market is that their profitability is not enough for them to be able to finance their general business. I mean, if you have to raise $750 million, like Michael Saylor, right? MicroStrategy yesterday, they offered, they're offering convertible. I don't know if they're doing convertible debt in the same way, but they're diluting basically by 600 million, and they need it tomorrow. And what they want to do is they want to go buy some damn Bitcoin, right? That's what MicroStrategy wants to do. MicroStrategy was up about 20% yesterday. Right now it's down 3%, and it's basically down 3% on this news. So it really doesn't matter because the stock is up so much that if they're going to buy more Bitcoin, that's only going to help them long term. SoFi obviously wants to take the 750 million and do something with it. So I kind of feel it's an overreaction from the street, because if they're going to do something with the 750 million to help them grow, and they don't have to pay that back for the next 5 years, and it's not diluting shareholders because they're not dumping those shares on the market. Like Palantir, when they issued 110 million shares 2 weeks ago, that was literally diluting shareholders, right? That was like dumping these new shares onto the market in the form of stock-based compensation, which means you owe less to the company. That's not what SoFi is doing here. And so if that's the case, I mean, down 8%, this might create a very attractive buy the dip opportunity. This is back to where SoFi was before earnings. Like it's a little bit above where SoFi was before earnings. But granted, I'm sure SoFi shareholders are not the most excited to see this today, unless you really, wanted to get in under. And I wouldn't mind, adding to the position a little bit lower than this, especially looking at some of the options in the Roth. Well, look at the prices today. Maybe there's something attractive there. Because now maybe that $12 strike, $15 strike for 2026 gets cheaper. Before I was thinking 20 because it was already at 10 or 9. But now that it's at 7 or 8, and I don't know if it stays there when the market opens. I mean, we'll see. Maybe some of those options get a little bit more attractive. Okay, so that was SoFi. Tim says playing off NBA advertising. Yeah, maybe they have to pay off this damn NBA deal that they did. So that might be another thing that's happening. All right, let's talk about Apple real quick. Let's talk about Apple. Apple is struggling a bit right now. Apple apparently, I don't think this is new news, but I guess the market's interpreting it as new news. Apple and China are not getting along in regards to their iPhone sales. So a new report came out this morning. Apple iPhone China sales stumble 24%, losing some ground to Huawei and Vivo. And that's what you're seeing right now in terms of the stock reacting pretty negatively. This is a 5th day of losses for Apple stock. iPhone sales down about 24%. The country smartphone sales were down 7% to start 2024. Huawei shot up second in sales with a 64% increase. So to start 2024, Apple is down 24% in terms of their Chinese sales. On top of that, Apple got sued by the EU for 2 billion pounds or euros, which is not a big deal for Apple, but I mean, it's something that's annoying. It's a bit of a headwind for the company. Apple right now, 171. Does this bad boy go under 170? I don't know. But if it does, it would be really interesting. Now, why is the broader market not taking a hit? Why is the S&P 500, down 0.42%, but Apple's down, while Apple's down, basically year to date, almost 5-6%. I think the reason for that is because Nvidia is actually up 1% of the pre-markets, and the broader market is starting to rally. The rally is starting to broaden to the broader market. It doesn't seem like the Mag 7 are taking up all the gains. Meta below 500, Microsoft at 415, Apple at 171, Google 132 in the pre-markets, Amazon 176, Tesla 182. We'll see if Tesla gets below 180. And then we got Nvidia at 856. So it seems like investors are taking their money out of the Mag 7, but it's not like they're just putting that money on the sidelines, which would cause the broader market to come down. We've seen the broader market go up. They're taking that money and they're putting it into other things, other assets. And it just seems like there's a healthy rotation happening here because obviously these guys have run a lot and the market's looking for other areas. Apple right now is in a real big pickle because their PE is still pretty high for a company that's not growing. And I mean, a PE of 27 and you're not growing. It's better than a PE of 30 and not growing, but still, you're not really growing. You got to have a lot of growth baked in. No one's talking about the Vision Pro anymore. No one, literally no one cares. I thought that would happen as I was like, I don't think anyone's going to care about this shit. Now, look, I think the Vision Pro will eventually succeed. It's just the hype that was around it. I mean, dude, do you hear anyone talking about this thing? I don't even know if Carlos uses this thing anymore. We got to ask him tonight if I yo, do you even use it? Like it's hard for me to imagine that thing's their next growth sector at this moment, given that it's not wearable, it's heavy, the battery pack, all that stuff. That'll change. But dude, I don't know if people care that much about spatial computing, dude. I really don't. It's a laptop on your face. Like that it is what it is. And so they've got to figure out this AI iPhone thing to be able to get growth. Right now, that is not necessarily happening. Benny says, we know how much they're going to grow when Gen 2, 3 comes out along with their AI transition. Yes, but it is contingent on Gen 2 and 3 actually being wearable. Like no one wants to have a wire strapped to them and no one wants to walk around looking like they're snow goggles. So there needs to be a massive amount of evolution in that product, which yes, can happen, but it's not like it's an easy thing. It's not like the iPad where you can just make it skinnier. Like there's a lot more you have to do. The iPad really didn't change from version 1 to the iPad Pro. This looks like the original iPad, dude. This thing right here, this looks like the original iPad. It's just skinnier. That's it. It's a big screen and it's skinnier. That's it. Yes, Carp is still in my background for those that hasn't changed for months, primarily because I'm lazy. But so that's what we got right now. That is why, dude, they refreshed the MacBook and I didn't even know it. Yeah, they offered new MacBook Airs yesterday. No one cares. No one cares. So in the context of Apple, I don't know, dude. They're going to really have to be able to prove this AI iPhone thing is real. And that's going to make it a big thing to get this going. So that's what we're seeing on Apple right now. And it's not doing the best. Let's get a quick little clip on Apple and then we'll move on to talk about Tesla. Here we go.
Of its iPhone in China falling 24% from a year ago in the first 6 weeks of this year. That's according to the research firm Counterpoint that says Apple saw increased competition from domestic rivals like Huawei, which saw its sales jump by 64% during that time. Apple shares this morning down by close to 2%. 171.70 is the last tick. And as you can see, that's come down pretty handily over the last 6 weeks or so. Joining us right now to talk about Apple's leadership at the top of the tech sector is Barton Crockett. He is Rosenblatt Securities senior analyst. And Barton, we were just having this conversation earlier this morning about whether Apple has kind of handed off the baton to everything related to AI. What do you think? How big of a setback is this for Apple?
Well, certainly, Apple is at a crossroads right now. They need to come up with a really kind of interesting AI innovation at their Worldwide Developer Conference in June, because this is a stock that its legacy is really built on disruptive innovation, and it's really at a lull in that right now. The Apple Car shuttered after 10 years. A cost of $10 billion, more than that. Vision Pro launching, but I think launching unimpressively at a high price point, uncomfortable device to wear.
I think he's right about that. Car's gone. Vision Pro launched. No one's really excited about it. And look, people were excited. I was even excited watching those videos, these day in the life of wearing Vision Pro. Look at me, the Vision Pro on the airplane. Like, I was binging all those. And then like a week later, I was like, all right, but I'm not going to buy it. I'm not going to buy this shit. So Vision Pro, not the most exciting. Apple's got to figure something out. And I think they will. It just might take a little bit of time, which is fine. I mean, they're a big company and it's a transition phase for them, but it's a transition phase that if you would bet on anyone to be able to figure it out, I think Apple will figure it out. Tesla down 3%, 182. I did buy 10 shares of Tesla yesterday like a schmuck at 187 in the Roth. I was like, okay, down 8% on the day. No problemo. That's a dip. From where I come from, that looks like nacho cheese and dip to me. And of course, it's the dip that keeps on dipping with Tesla. Now, why is Tesla down? It's a very, for anyone who's still confused why Tesla's down, it's not magic. They cut their prices in China. And as a result of cutting those prices in China, that is not a good thing because that's going to hurt their margins. On top of that, their Tesla sales in China also fell from what I'm looking at. China, let me share this right here. China Gigafactory deliveries have slowed down, which is not good as well for Tesla. Tesla shares fell Monday after data from the China Passenger Car Association showed deliveries from its Shanghai Gigafactory at their lowest point in more than a year. BYD competition, that's 1/3 of the price of a Tesla, obviously catching up. Chinese manufacturers such as XPeng and BYD are matching the strategy. They're using price incentives to boost sales, but it's just not enough. Now, obviously, what is Tesla going for here? They're going for volume versus margins. It's pretty obvious. They want to be able to eventually sell you software, and they need to get you in the car to be able to do that. A lot of consumers at this point don't care. They just want to be able to get a car. At least that's what is being seen in China. And so that strategy so far is not the most effective in China. In the United States, I think it's been fairly effective. But then again, the United States consumer has a bit of more propensity to spend on something like a Tesla. So that's not the best thing right now for Tesla. June says Tesla vandalized in Germany, power lines cut by protesters. Really? They got vandalized in Germany? Oh, yeah, look at this. Far left group says it targeted Tesla. Far left group says it targeted Tesla in German arson attack. Okay, let's read a little bit from this. In a letter published online, activists calling themselves the Volcano Group. Okay. That sounds like a 17-year-old trying to go through an identity crisis and they made a new band, Volcano Group. They could have got a better name. An electricity pylon close to the plant caught fire, causing power outages in the factory and nearby towns. Tesla said workers had been sent home, but its building was in a safe state. The fire did not reach the electric car's factory itself, but did burn an electricity pylon and high voltage wires. That's not good. In its letter claiming responsibility for the attack, the Volcano Group, I cannot take that seriously, dude, said it sabotaged Tesla because it ate up resources and labor. It also accused Tesla contaminating groundwater and using huge amounts of drinking water. Okay, so an activist group is mad that there's one company on planet Earth that began the transition to electric vehicles to probably stop or at least mitigate the harms that a far left group would be concerned about, like climate change, because they used contaminated groundwater. Okay. Interesting. This is the dumbest shit ever, dude. This is so ridiculous. This is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous. Vince, what's up? Thank you for being here. Good morning to you as well. Thank you for being here in the chat. This is insane, dude. This is wild. We are entering into a world where some people are allowing their ideologies to really manifest in pretty dangerous actions based on things they believe that are not necessarily correct. I mean, these are just weird things. Police in the state of Brandenburg said they were inspecting a letter that the force had received claiming that a far-left environmental organization known as Vulcan Group. Okay, so that's a German way of saying it. That sounds way cooler than Volcano Group. I'm sorry, that sounds way cooler than Volcano Group. Volcano Group sounds like a band, dude, with kids that are trying to figure out how to play the guitar and drums. Like, Vulcan Group at least sounds cooler. It was responsible for the fire, but it had yet to be authenticated. This is about 30 miles east of Berlin. That's intense. Okay, so that might be another reason why Tesla's down a little bit. Obviously, that's probably not stopping factory production or anything like that. It's a short little hiccup. It's a scary hiccup because if people actually died because of that. Like imagine factory workers that don't make the most amount of money actually died because a environmental leftist organization that's supposed to care about workers' rights, if you're a leftist, and like factory workers and people like that, ended up killing or severely harming those people because the electricity went out, or they're doing like heavy machinery in the factory and then something blows up. Like, it's just the most, I don't know, dude. The only way to solve this type of stuff is if sociologically we have a sort of different change on how we think about these things. And there are certain ideologies that are encapsulating, I would imagine, younger people that are feeling this way. It's tough. Factories temporarily shut down. Yeah, that's not good. Remember, the Berlin factory just opened up February 12th because the Red Sea, the Houthis, had diverted enough of the supply chains to be able to for Tesla to be able to be like, all right, we can't open the Berlin factory because we don't have the raw goods coming in. And so they closed down. They just opened up like 3 weeks ago. So I hope this doesn't, stay down for a while, but that is also not good for deliveries. Amit, can you go to my Discord and look at the data on the Apple and the Apple thread? Okay, so let's do that. Let's open up Chris's Discord, Apple. Okay, so I'm looking at this right now. So can I share the Discord at all? Am I allowed to share this? Does it work? Okay, here we go. Yeah, I can share this. You guys might not be able to see this too much, but okay. So Chris is saying top 5 companies worldwide smartphone shipments, market year and year over year growth, Q4 2023. So Apple shipped 80 million units. You guys might not be able to see it too well, but Apple shipped 80 million units in fourth quarter 2023. And they were in the top 5 companies that did that. Okay. People will look at these numbers out of China and freak out, but look at Apple worldwide and you'll see the different story. According to Canalys' latest research, worldwide smartphone shipments grew 8% year over year in the fourth quarter, reaching 320 million units. This ended 7 consecutive quarters of decline. Apple led the market in the fourth quarter with 24% of share of shipments thanks to new iPhone launches. So what Chris is trying to make the argument for is that overall, Apple is leading the market by a wide margin, but in China, they might be slightly behind. And that's due to whatever the hell is going on in China. But that's not a reason necessarily for investors to be super scared, given that the iPhone is continuing to keep growing. iOS grew market share from 20% to almost 30% as well. Right now, iOS has 61% market share, 38% market share for Android. All right, so I mean, Apple and Tesla, again, you could argue both of these are down for independent reasons, and they might not deserve to be down. Apple down because of iPhone sales, Tesla down because of, China price margins, which again, it's an issue, but we've already known this for a long time. I think a lot of people are either waiting for Apple to crack below 150 in order to get excited about Apple, to really get to a cute valuation, a valuation that's exciting to them. And Tesla, I think a lot of people are also waiting for that 160, 150 range for them to be super excited. Tesla right now, $600 billion market cap. It was at 680 yesterday, basically 10% dip in the past 2 days. And that's what got Tesla and Apple to both be down pretty badly. But that is pretty insane. That is pretty insane that the Vulcan Group has decided to put a fire on Tesla's factory. The people, it's not like they're going to Elon's house. These are literal people that are these are people that work at Tesla. These are working class individuals. It's only hurting your cause. It's only hurting those people. So it doesn't seem like it makes the most sense to me. Scott says, just wanted to say thank you. I love listening to you in the morning to start my day. Scott, thank you so much for being here. It means the absolute world to me. Thank you all for being here today with me this morning. Okay, so we talked about Apple. We talked about Tesla. Let's get an update on the American consumer. Target is up 10%. Target needed to crush. This is really good that Target crushed. Let's see why Target is up 10% today.
$2.98 a share on an adjusted earnings per share basis. That is much better than the street had been expecting, $2.42. Revenue also beating expectations, $31.9 billion versus the $31.83 billion the street had been looking for. Comp store sales down by 4.4%, but that was a little better than the street was looking for. Street estimate was down by 4.5%. And it looks like the fourth quarter gross margins were also pretty strong, 25.6%. The company is giving guidance for the full year, this full year that's coming on this, and says that for the full year, they're looking for comp store sales to be flat to up 2%. That's about in line with what the street was looking for. Adjusted earnings per share, they're looking for $8.60 to $9.60. $9.10 would be the midpoint on that. The street right now is at about $9.15. But it's going to take a difficult current quarter to get them to that point. They are looking for first quarter earnings per share of $1.70 to $2.10. The street was at the high end of that, $2.09. Comps, they're looking for down 3 to down 5%. And that's about in line with the street's expectations of down 3.6%. You see the stock is up pretty sharply, about 5.8%, probably not just because the current quarter is better than expected, but because their operating margins and profit margins have gotten a lot better. They do say for 2023, that's one of the highlights that they point out. Operating income margin, 5.3%, was nearly 2 percentage points higher than it had been the year before.
Wow. They increased operating income margins by about 2%. That's a big deal for Target. A business like Target doesn't have good margins. That's why it's up right now. It's not just because of the revenue beat.
And their operating income dollars were up by about $2 billion compared with that. So again, right now that stock is up by about 5.8%. The CEO, Brian Cornell, is going to be speaking to the street.
All right, so Target's up. Now, this is really good for the American consumer. The fact that, here's two things that are important for Target. Target right now up about 10%. The fact that people are shopping at Target is a really good thing, right? Because that means more sales are increasing. That's why they beat on revenue. But on top of that, if their operating income margins are going up, that means they're able to sell things at a higher price to the consumer, and the consumer is willing to pay. Now, one could interpret this as a little bit inflationary, right? Maybe the consumer has too much money, and that's not the best for inflation. I think that's more so in the context of people have jobs. Like, there's always a question of are people willing to pay more because like they've adjusted to inflation, or are they willing to pay more because they have jobs? Maybe a little bit of both, but I think the broader thing is that if people have jobs, people have money, they're willing to pay, right? They're willing to be able to engage in products and services that interest them. And so if people have more money in their pockets, unemployment numbers will get that this week, but it's at 3.7%. Companies like Target are going to do well, and they're going to put up numbers. And companies like Target really do need to put up numbers, because if Target is tanking, like, you can't have Nvidia going up, because at the end of the day, AI makes its way down to the consumer. Like, if Google's buying a ton of GPUs from Nvidia, they're buying GPUs because they're running AI-based services that they're going to sell to the consumer. If the consumer can't buy a couple t-shirts from Target, they're not going to buy whatever subscription Google offers. I mean, like, I know that's not exactly an apples to apple comparison, but that's the whole point. You got to have all these companies work together. That's the interesting thing about the stock market. They all have to interact in a very unique way in order for this to make sense. So that's what we got on Target. Good earnings from Target. Inspire Rise says the Mitch shirt is from Target. I actually don't know where their shirt is from, dude. It's where did I buy this shirt? I bought this shirt a long time ago. I bought a bunch of these polos at the same time. They probably, I don't know. I got them from somewhere, but it's probably from Target, to be honest. All right, Bitcoin. Let's talk about Biddy. Bitcoin dropped to 65,000 last night. Everyone was staying awake trying to get this bad boy to 69, and it did not do that. It stayed at 60. It stayed at 65, but then it rebounded real quick to 67. I saw it fall to 65.4, and then within like 2 minutes, I'm not even kidding, it was at 66.7. 66.7. And so that means there was a ton of buy orders at that 65 range that just swooped in, and they got up some more of their Bitcoin. Anthony Pompliano on CNBC this morning. Let's see what Pomp has to say about where Bitcoin is going. And then I have a lot of stats I want to share with everybody about Bitcoin. Here we go.
Those record highs from a couple of years ago. Joining us now is Anthony Pompliano, a founder of Pomp Investments. And it's kind of a fool's errand to ever try to figure out where Bitcoin is headed. But just in terms of things that are on the horizon, we got the halving coming up. We've had the ETF that was recently, spot ETFs are now becoming more mainstream. And how long has it been? Has it been 2 months? It started maybe a little bit slow, but then it's been like kind of a rocket ship.
If you look over the last 60 days and in the next 60 days, I think there's two big stories. The ETF approvals obviously were a huge deal. BlackRock alone has $11 billion in their ETF. They added $1 billion just in the last day. And so these are massive inflows for just one fund. There's 11 of them. And so obviously there's tons of money coming in, about 12 times more demand for Bitcoin than what the network is producing every single day. But also, as we near this record high, if we go back and we look at past record high breaks, or if we eclipse the old all-time high, 3 of the 4 times Bitcoin doubled in 18 days or less. And so if you think about that for a second, once you break through an all-time high, it's price discovery. What is this thing worth? The world is going to try to figure that out. And 3 of the last 4 times in 18 days or less, it doubled in price. You add in the fact that we have the halving coming, and we're going to go from 900 Bitcoin a day coming into the supply to 450. And it's very hard to make an argument that Bitcoin is not going much higher and at a faster pace than we all expected.
I mean, when you do the math, I feel like I need to say that past results are not indicative necessarily of the future, because you sound so I mean, it just sounds that anyone at home would, if they're totally new at this game, they might mortgage their house and put it all in Bitcoin. And there is still risk in the asset, is there not?
I definitely don't think that they should do that, right? If you go and you ask most people in the Bitcoin world, they will tell you higher percentages than you would expect in terms of what they've put in. But I think 1 to 5% for a traditional portfolio ends up making sense.
But you just made a case for going from 70 to 140 in 18 days. I mean, that sounds like things that you hear on TV where you just want to really stay away from.
Bitcoin's up 20% in the last week. It's up 60% in the last month, and it's up 200% in the last year. I'm not saying it's going to 140,000. What I'm saying is 3 of the last 4 times, it doubled in 18 days. And with a halving upon us, it's just hard to not say this is likely to go much, much higher. And so what I think also we start to pay attention to here is, look, there's 3 main new buyers that are now going to come into the market. The first is public pension funds, right? We had a fund. It was anchored by 2 public pension funds in Fairfax County. Catherine Molnar and Andy Speller were the CIOs there, and they're up 12x on their exposure to Bitcoin in that fund. And so when you see that, you say to yourself, wait a second, there's only 4 funds last year in all of state public pension funds that were fully funded. If they all went and put 1% in Bitcoin, there's a very strong possibility that a number of those funds would get back to fully funded status over the next 10, 15, 20 years.
If Bitcoin goes up, his argument is like all these pension funds that have been wiped away because of bad management of money, if they just buy some Bitcoin and Bitcoin goes up, they're going to be back to break even. So it's not the worst argument in the world for why pension funds 1%, 2%. It's not that risky to just drop a little bit of that into this thing that could go up a lot more.
On top of that, you got sovereign wealth funds. They've been very quiet right now. There's now ETF opportunities for them. They don't have to go buy Bitcoin and potentially take the risk of the geopolitical backlash. They can simply go get the exposure without actually holding the Bitcoin. If a sovereign wealth fund comes out, especially a major one, and says, we've bought Bitcoin and it is a material percentage now of our portfolio, I think that there will be a global race between countries.
Do you think gold is up in sympathy with Bitcoin? I mean, why is, or is there
Inflation.
the 34 trillion? Inflation is coming down. Is it 34 trillion? Is it the number? Is it the amount of debt and how quickly it's growing that has Bitcoin and gold both strong in recent sessions or in recent months?
If you go and you look, one of the critiques of Bitcoin was it was a zero interest rate phenomenon, right? Oh, if rates are down, Bitcoin's up. Yeah. If rates go up, Bitcoin comes down.
They haven't come down.
Well, rates are up and Bitcoin is back to an all-time high. Stocks are up, et cetera. So what Bitcoin has become is a index for global liquidity. And although the Fed, the ECB, and Japan are actually contracting their balance sheets, China has been basically giving the middle finger to the rest of the global economy. Okay. And they're saying, hey, we're going to ease here. We're going to go and put liquidity into the market. And so Bitcoin is a big, big winner. If you believe that the dollar is going to continue to be debased over the coming decade, Bitcoin's going to be a winner. And if you think global liquidity is going to go up, Bitcoin's going to be a winner there too.
And what's gold's market cap? Is it that's
10 trillion or so?
10 to 12 trillion. Some people are looking for Bitcoin to be 10%, 50%.
Okay, so I want to show you guys a couple stats. Obviously, what Pomp is saying is this argument about the supply shock thesis that we've been talking about for a while. We talked about the debt offering from SoFi, guys. I talked about it in the first 2 minutes of the show. So if you just go to like 2 minutes and 40 seconds, I'll talk about it for the next 10 minutes. The quick overview is that the stock's already recovering a bit. It was down 10%. Now it's down like 7%. It's not the biggest deal. They don't owe the money till 2029. It's capped at a certain level. So there's not, it's either not going to dilute shareholders or it's going to literally take shares off of the outstanding shares. And if anything, they're going to use the 750 million to be able to buy something really good to help them to grow. So to me, this is a gross over exaggeration from the street. This is what growing companies have to do at times. My question is, what do the option prices look like on SoFi today? And how quickly does this thing run back up? Because it was at 780. Now it's at like 810. This might get eaten up. This dip really might get eaten up, or it might, be stagnate a little bit here. So we'll see what the option prices look like when the market opens. But in general, this convertible debt offering is it's just not a big deal. It's not that. They're not literally dumping shares on the market is what I'm trying to say. Like Palantir did that a couple of weeks ago. This is not that. So something in 2029 that'll probably take effect then. And SoFi stock should be much higher by then, so it shouldn't matter too much. All right, so let's read. I found this really good post today. This is a really interesting post that I'm seeing right here, okay? BlackRock alone in just 7 weeks has purchased 161,000 Bitcoin, which is about 10.9 billion. That's only 0.12% of their assets under management, okay? They manage 9.1 trillion, so they got about 10.9 billion. If BlackRock or all of its clients decided to just put 1% of their assets, that would be 91 billion. 2% would be 182 billion. 3% would be 273 billion. 4%, 364. 5%, 455. 5% feels pretty conservative. And if we don't want to do 5%, let's go in the middle, 3%. That's 273 billion. That would be 1/5 of the entire Bitcoin market cap. That means that price, if there's not a lot of sellers to be able to consume that 273 billion, which it doesn't seem like there are because you're barely finding any Bitcoin right now, right? The supply is just not moving. And the supply is going to be cut in half in 40 days. It seems like that would put a lot of pressure on the asset, and that would cause it to probably go higher. Registered investment advisors and their platforms are yet to come. Bitcoin and other ETFs in other countries are yet to come. Nations are yet to come. Billionaires are yet to come. Companies like Google, Apple, Amazon, which have hundreds of billions in cash, are yet to come. Sovereign wealth funds like Pomp was talking about are yet to come as well. And they don't need to buy Bitcoin. They just need to buy the ETF and they're good to go. Some of them are already arriving. For example, this whale account has been buying 100 Bitcoin and more every day since November 2022. So obviously some whales have entered into the chat. And now it's just a question of how far this can keep going. In 49 days, the halving will reduce the Bitcoin production to 450 daily. And you can see right here that there's just a lot more potential asset classes or people that want to get interested into this asset class, which is why Bitcoin can get pretty exciting over the next few months. On top of that, Bitcoin ETF inflows yesterday was 562 million, as you can see right there, 562.7. We had a down day a day before at 139 million. There's only been 2 down days in the past 17 trading days. So in the past 17 trading days, if you can see right here from the bottom of my screen, we had one day where there was a net outflows of 35 million, and then another day of net outflows of 139 million. Yesterday was 562 million, 6 billion in inflows in the past 17 trading days. A lot more people are coming in. Lot more people are coming in, and they're coming in for a reason. It seems like they want to get exposure to this asset. And so that's what we're seeing on Bitcoin right now. Amit, I already know you talked about it, but would you be able to give a brief summary of the SoFi news? Just gave it 2 minutes ago, but really brief summary. This is debt. It's not straight dilution. In 2029, it can become dilution, but the stock would have to be 130% above in order for it to become dilution, which shareholders I don't think would care about if you're buying right now. And it's at a capped price. So if anything, it might actually take shares off the table in 5 years versus dilute shareholders. So it's not something I think SoFi shareholders, if you're heavy into SoFi, this is not something where you have to like reevaluate your position or your thesis or anything like that. It's just something companies do at the end of the day to be able to raise some money. They're only down 5.83%. Look, they were down 10%. Now they're down 5.71. So the dip got eaten up in the pre-market. We'll see when it opens. Now the shorts are probably loving this. The shorts doubled down over the past 2 weeks. And the shorts are continuing to double down on SoFi. But in general, I don't know if this is a short thesis. This is rather just something operational that the company has to do. I mean, if you're hold on Bitcoin ETF like IBIT, when would you be looking to get out with the halving coming up? When would you be looking to get out? I mean, I wouldn't sell the Bitcoin ETF before the halving. Like the whole thesis of the halving is that the supply gets cut in half. And so BlackRock, when they're trying to buy more Bitcoin, they're going to have to pay a way bigger price for it. They're going to get a ton of inflows pay a way bigger price because there's not enough supply going around. So to me, I mean, selling Bitcoin before the halving is not necessarily the smartest thing. Now, is there a world in which Bitcoin pulls a rug pull and this thing tops out at the all-time high at 69,000 and then it just crashes back down to 40? Yeah, that's possible. I just don't know where are the sellers or who are the sellers to be able to do that, right? So if you're holding IBIT, which is up 38% in the past month, or ARKB or any of these guys, I just don't know what is the big reason to get rid of it before the halving, unless you're happy with 30% gains. And if you are, then by all means, take some profits. But before the halving, the conventional argument, the way I understand math, is that there's less supply, more demand, that thing's going to shoot up. And I know it's that simple and it sounds that crazy, but it kind of is that simple. And either we're all wrong about this and there's going to be a ton of sellers after the halving event and it's already quote unquote baked in, or we haven't seen anything yet. And this is just getting started. And so we will see. Saskia Rose says the pressure of the halving is on the miners, not on the coin. Correct. The pressure of the halving is on the clean sparks of the world, which let's go to right now, versus Bitcoin itself. And so that's an issue. I am not buying the clean spark dip. I know some people asking in the chat. I just don't really care that much about clean spark. I'd rather buy more Robinhood, quite frankly. So my position is heavier in Robinhood. That clean spark you're buying as a crypto play. So if I'm buying Robinhood as a crypto play, I don't really need to have both. I'm fine having one. I'd rather have a heavier position in one than a diversified position in two. CleanSpark's a lot more volatile. I don't understand the business as much as I understand Robinhood. I think I have a good understanding of CleanSpark, but definitely not as much as I understand Robinhood. So just more comfortable holding Robinhood instead. By the way, yesterday on the App Store, let me show you guys this. This happened last night. I was surprised when this happened. I did not think this was happening. Robinhood and Coinbase are number 2 and number 3 in the App Store in finance. Number 3 and 4. Robinhood is 3 and Coinbase is 4. Did not expect that. I mean, that shot up really quick. And then if you go to the overall App Store, out of free apps, they're number 48 and number 49. 2 obscure crypto investing apps have cracked the top 50 in the United States of America, which is not easy to do. So I think the user growth on these companies is going to be freaking insane. Oh, by the way, Robinhood's CFO was on a presentation yesterday. Deposits in February, I covered that live on the channel yesterday. 3.5 billion in February. So they got 3.8 in January, 3.5 in February. That's 7 billion. And in Q4, they had 4.6 billion. So they've already surpassed Q4 in 2 days. And now we still have March left. He also said trading volume for options, equities, and crypto was higher in February relative to January. So to me, I mean, yeah, I understand that better than, Marathon or CleanSpark. And so that's why I'm a little bit more excited. Benny says this normally means that we're getting near the top of the market. I think everyone's saying this is wrong, dude. I think everyone's like calling like, oh, this is the top, this is the top. Like, I think the ETFs have fundamentally changed the dynamic of what people think is the top. And by the way, Coinbase was number 1 in 2021 on the App Store. It's number 49. So if it gets closer to number 1, then yeah, there's a lot of people coming in. But I think we have a long way to go. I think the ETFs have institutionally legitimized this asset. And that doesn't mean we can't see a massive pullback. But I don't think this is like a conventional top just because retail is getting in. Like, retail is just starting to realize that they have an old Robinhood or Coinbase account that they haven't opened up for 5 years. Like, I don't think we are anywhere near that top based on retail, but let's see, in the next couple of weeks after that halving event, what actually happens and if retail really gets excited. Altcoins are definitely going to be exploding as well. Dogecoin is up about 20 cents a coin. The Dogecoin millionaire, remember him? He is officially a millionaire again. He never sold. Now he's back to $1 million on Dogecoin. It'll be interesting to see if he sells this time. But I think people are just coming in and eventually, we will see a top. I just don't know if it's now. I don't know if it's right now. All right, here we go. It is Tuesday, March 5th. 9:30 a.m. Thank you, everybody, for being with me here today. The stock market is now open. Wake your asses up. Here we go. Another day alive on planet Earth, analyzing the markets. CleanSpark down about 2%. Here we go. S&P down about 0.42%. Apple 2.38%, 170. Let's see if it falls below 170. MicroStrategy down 7%. They're actually doing dilution of $600 million. They're going to take that money and buy up a ton of Bitcoin. I mean, they're up from $400. They basically tripled in the past month. I don't think people can complain too much if you own MicroStrategy. SoFi 810 down about 5.4%. This was down at 760. Now it's at 810. Dip's getting eaten up. We'll see how badly this dip ends up lasting. Celsius down about 1%. Makes sense. Celsius basically up 30% over the past week. Tesla 182 down 3%. Again, they had a far left environmental group try to essentially burn down one of their factories in Germany. They weren't successful, thankfully. So that is what happened this morning. And on top of that, China price cuts are hurting their margins as well. Palantir, look at that, 24.11. They're actually up today. Palantir, I think, got a little oversold. It fell to 23.70. So we got Palantir now 24.14. We have a new deal on Palantir this morning as well. I'll talk about that in a little bit. It has to do with the government defense space. ARK Innovation down about 1.42%. NVIDIA is actually up somehow. NVIDIA is up 0.23%. Bitcoin 67,525. Remember, NVIDIA went up 5% yesterday. Right now at 853. SMCI down about 3.7%. They just got included in the S&P 500, 1,033 for SMCI. Snowflake down 2.3%. By the way, Christopher Patel and I will be doing a podcast on Snowflake probably tomorrow night. Everyone should tune in. I know that, as Palantir shareholders, we don't give a shit about Snowflake. There is a really good argument for why Snowflake's going back to 200. And even if it's just a trade, there's some quick money to be made on this thing. So me and Chris will be doing that podcast tomorrow night. And I definitely recommend people watch that because money is money at the end of the day. Snowflake, I believe, is starting to get sold off at a stupid rate. Like they don't deserve to be sold off this much. So we'll talk about that in a couple of days. The quick reason for that is the remaining performance obligations grew by 50%, but they only guided for 22%. You cannot have RPO grow by 50%, which means you have billions and billions of dollars in literal money that will become revenue one day, and then say you're only going to grow 22%. What they're doing is they're artificially deflating these numbers so that the new CEO, can beat those numbers without without looking bad because he's a new CEO. So there might be some money to be made in Snowflake, and we'll talk about that as well. Palo Alto Networks down about 1.6%. SoundHound down about 6%. Where's Robinhood? Robinhood was taking a beating in the pre-market. Robinhood 1630. Okay, so for everyone saying, why is Robinhood down? Again, there's two arguments to this. Number one, I think it's run up a lot. Robinhood's up about 70% in the past couple of weeks. So, obviously, Robinhood will take a little bit of a breather here and there. That's what's happening with stocks. Number two, again, I really do believe this. We know what's going to happen in Q1. Their numbers are going to crush. The CFO all but said their numbers are going to crush. They're number 3 in the freaking app store for finance. Bitcoin's at 67,000. They're making way more money than when Bitcoin was at 50,000. I do believe the market makers don't want this bad boy to run as much. Same thing with a company like CleanSpark. Yes, people are taking profits. CleanSpark recovering a little bit. It was down 5%. Now it's at 1630, 1633. Bitcoin going up is only good for these types of companies. Robinhood, CleanSpark, Marathon. It's only good. And the fact that it's going to result in their next earnings, the street knows this is the case. There are many versions of how the market makers try to get cheaper shares when this stuff happens. Are people taking profits? Sure. But I just don't think people are taking profits when Bitcoin's reaching all-time highs. Like most smart money is definitely not doing that. 91% institutional ownership for Robinhood. They are not selling. If anyone's selling, it's probably retail that's thinking this thing is going to collapse now that it's down 2%. So to me, I think this is either a buy the dip. I'm not buying the dip. I mean, I have my position, but if you wanted to get into it, maybe wait till it gets down to that 1580 range. That could happen. My point is Robinhood is still dirt cheap to me. And I think it keep falling because that's what happens to these stocks. We could get a 5% pullback and Robinhood go to 14. That's totally possible. Or this thing could just stay flat in this $16 range because market makers do not want this thing to get higher. So we'll see how that plays out. Amit, please explain how Hood is a Bitcoin plane. Robinhood in Q2 2021 made $230 million off of Bitcoin in crypto revenues. So when Bitcoin trading goes up, Robinhood makes a lot of money off crypto transactions. NEO is down 5%. Why is NEO down 5%? Okay, I'm looking at NEO's results right now. Let me know in the chat if anyone's in NEO. They delivered 50,000 vehicles in Q4, which is up from 40,000 last year. That's a 25% increase. That's good. Revenue of $2 billion in Q4. Full year revenue of $7.8 billion. So revenue seems to be a beat on the yearly and the quarterly. They are still losing. They lost $756 million, so they're not profitable. And they delivered 25% more vehicles. Why is NEO down? Well, NEO's in China, and I don't think the street's that excited about China. Now, they're only down 4%. It's not that intense. There's a $5 stock. So I think NEO would need a lot of momentum to be able to go higher, but there you go. NEO's down about 4%, and it seems like the Chinese markets are not that excited about them. Target crushed on their earnings, crushed on their guidance. Target is up 11%, really good for the state of the consumer. So Target is up. Palantir 24.32. That is up as well. Coinbase, I believe, is doing great today as well. Coinbase is barely down. They're down about 1%. Now, Coinbase is much more correlated to Bitcoin, right? When Bitcoin prints, Coinbase makes a lot of money. Robinhood is obviously a proxy play, but Coinbase is like a direct proxy. So that's why you see Coinbase kind of spike up to that 237 level. 250 was the IPO price. So if we get back to 250, that'll be exciting to see. Rivian 1105, that's up about 1.3%. Wells Fargo 55, JP Morgan 187, TFC 3619. Regional banks starting to do a little bit better. Ethereum as well 3700 right now. SoFi, let's check on them. How's SoFi doing? Oh boy, they're down 9%. Street did not like their dilution news, which isn't really dilution news. So let's check out the options pricing on SoFi. Miguel says, so then if Hood is a Bitcoin play, so is PayPal, right? Technically, yes. PayPal, well, Hood is, look, people are buying a lot more crypto on Robinhood than on PayPal. But you can buy it on PayPal. The problem is they're not marketing like that. Like Robinhood embraces crypto. Like they have memes and all this stuff on their platform. Like they really like the crypto community. They have so many crypto integrations with decentralized platforms and wallets and all this stuff. PayPal doesn't really market that stuff. And I don't think PayPal cares that much. That's the problem. I don't think PayPal cares that much about this stuff. So, and until the street understands that PayPal should care about this stuff, the street's probably not going to give them the benefit of the doubt there. Okay, so I want to show SoFi options. So let's take a look at that. What do we have on SoFi options? So let's look at the options right here. Let me present my screen. And let's see how attractive this stuff is. If I want to go to 2026 and I want to say, hey, SoFi is going to be $12. Right now, that option is worth $2.01. Okay. Well, Wow, we don't even have $20 leaps. Oh no, we do. Okay, so let's say I was going to do a $15 spread. If I buy the 15 and I sell the 20, right now that would cost me 56 cents. Interesting, 51 cents. That's what it looks like. Okay, so if I wanted to actually do something a little different, let's say I want to buy the 10 and sell the 15. That right there would be about 95 cents. That was about $1.15 a week ago when I looked at it. So it is down. It's not attractive enough. It's down, but it's not attractive enough. January 2026. So there you go. January 2026. I mean, these things are down a decent amount today. They're all down almost like 20%. But it's not, I don't know. It's not the most exciting. Not the most exciting. I feel like those prices got to be 60 cents or lower for me to get really, really, really into it. Yes, I meant derivatives. I meant derivatives. SoFi down 8.3%. Damn, it's getting hammered. It's getting hammered on this one. All right. I mean, there you go. I didn't think it would get hammered, dude. I thought it would recover as soon as the market opens. The dilution is, we'll talk about it on Finance Junkies today, but it's not as bad as what people are thinking. But I think the shorts just got so excited that they saw the dilution news. Also, I think they think Anthony Noto can't build a really profitable company. And so they're like, look, if Noto can barely build a profitable company, why are we so excited that he's going to, take this stock to $20, $30 in the next 5 years? Because if he's raising money, obviously they don't have enough money coming in from profits, which is expected because they're growing like crazy, which is why they're not that profitable. But the street's upset. Now, in general, for a market pullback, let's get a little clip on this. Is there a market pullback? Could that happen? I think that's very possible. Chris yesterday on Finance Junkies was making a good point about crude oil. OPEC Plus is cutting off production in certain areas, and that's going to lead to more pressure on oil. That's definitely going to lead to more pressure on the United States with strategic oil reserves and potentially having to unleash those. So the idea that we could see a bit of a pullback, I think, in the markets is, I mean, we're definitely due for one, right? But the question is that willing to happen when you've got NVIDIA kind of popping up the markets and the markets being more excited for what's going on with AI? Here we go. Let's look at a 5% pullback and if it's likely or not.
What we're seeing in the NASDAQ, futures under pressure right now. It's just actually all futures in the red right now.
Yeah, we've come so far so fast. I know Jim Cramer, you highlighted it earlier in the show, was talking about a pullback and being ready for it. We've gone 87 days without a 2% correction in the S&P 500. We're up 16 out of 18 weeks. It's the only time that's happened in my lifetime. That goes back quite a while now, unfortunately.
No, fortunately, we want to keep you living.
So what happens when you run too far too fast? You take a break, you pause. So a natural pullback, a 5% correction, I say this all the time, happens 3 times on average a year. We pull back 5%. Okay. We're still above all key technical levels. And this is normal and healthy, and seasonally, we tend to take a break around this time of the year. So I'm not concerned about any small pullback. I would use it to put money to work.
All right, Jay Wood saying buy the dip. Okay, so you have your WEX word of the day today. You cheated a bit. It's actually an acronym.
I know. I felt bad about this, and it's him. Where do you want to invest right?
So his argument is kind of around the idea that, look, a dip might happen, but if a dip happens, it's pretty normal. That's that I hadn't heard before. A 2% pullback on the S&P hasn't happened in the last 82 trading days. I mean, that's a hell of a run that the S&P has had. CleanSpark up 2.24%, recovering now. So CleanSpark's doing this thing. Celsius, $87. Goodness gracious. Celsius was at 65 last week, and those earnings crushed. Tesla, 182. Palantir, 24.18. Palantir doing okay. Bitcoin trying to get back to, it's looking like it's $1 away from 68,000. Trying to get to 68,000 right here. Let me pull up the Palantir deal that I saw today. It's a small one, but it has to do with defense. So let me pull that up right here. Okay, so here's what I'm looking at in the context of Palantir. We got the Ukraine deal yesterday, so that was a deal that we got, but we got a new one today for another partnership. Here we go. Okay, so Palantir and Red 6. Palantir is partnering with Red 6 partners. Today, Red 6 and Palantir Technologies announced that Red 6 will integrate with Palantir's recently announced mixed reality platform on their OSDK, Ontology Software Development Kit, to create an extensible data service that was all built to enable mixed reality applications. So it's something to do with their mixed reality software, probably on the battlefield, because this has to do with defense. The partnership will demonstrate the capability to utilize Palantir's platform in conjunction with Red 6 augmented reality technology. This approach will bring timely, relevant, and actionable data directly to the warfighter while reducing their cognitive load. The integration of decision-making platforms that Palantir offers into immersive solutions like Red 6 is key to achieving the Department of Defense's vision for the future of distributed situational awareness and mission command. The chief outcome will enable exquisite, at-speed decisions across domains, formations, and echelons from the command center to the tactical edge. In a nutshell, they're doing some really cool shit with mixed reality. Red 6, I've never heard of this company before. Red 6, here's their website. The AR future is here. So it looks like this is a company that primarily works in the defense space, and they probably do some private sector work as well. They raised $70 million in a Series B. So it's a startup. And so Palantir's collaborating with a startup here on how to bring augmented reality to probably, material applications like a headset. That is what Palantir is working on. This is pretty cool. There's no money attached to this. This is just a partnership. Red 6 AR technology is already being integrated with the T7 with Boeing, Lockheed Martin, and obviously now Palantir is trying to do an integration from a data perspective with Red 6. If this just goes to show one thing, it goes to show that there's a lot of money coming in defense spending. Shyam Sankar put out a opinion piece on the Washington Post yesterday, and that opinion piece was basically saying, hey guys, I put it in the link to my latest Daily Palantir video, so if you want to read the articles in that link in the description of that video. Bitcoin 68,305 right now. Basically Shyam Sankar was like, we got to spend more money on defense, and so he's making public proclamations, him and Karp, that we got to spend more money on defense. And it looks like, with deals like this, eventually the US will be spending a lot more money on defense in the context of software, and Palantir seems to be one of the core beneficiaries to be able to take advantage of that. William Blair today said Palantir is likely to win a $178 million 2-year contract with the U.S. Army to begin phase 3 of the Tactical Intelligence Target Access Node, or Titan. Okay, I want to look that up right now because we haven't gotten an update on Titan for a long time. Let's see if they put out a note. Oh, wow, look at that. Here we go. Yeah, thank you for this, Semjon. Thank you for this news. This is awesome. So remember the Titan contract, $1.5 billion on Palantir. That they're collaborating with Androlon. By March, we were supposed to get it. It is March. So for all those asking, when are we supposed to get it? The DoD said in December, you're going to get it in March. It is March, so maybe we get an update soon. Here we go. Palantir likely wins $178 million. Oh, that's why Palantir might be up in the pre-market. I was wondering, why is Palantir up today? Palantir, 24.12. They're up. Maybe that's the reason. Palantir has likely won a $178 million 2-year contract with the U.S. Army to begin phase 3 on a tactical intelligence targeting access node. We believe that this is highly likely and that the contract was awarded to Palantir, which is teaming with Anduril, Northrop Grumman, L3 Harris, and Sierra Nevada. If solidified, it would be Palantir's 4th largest contract by annual revenue run rate. Okay, so the Titan $1.5 billion contract, maybe that's not going to be announced all at once. Maybe that eventually will be announced, but before you get that contract, you have to win certain phases, and Palantir was in phase 1 in July 2022 when they got a $36 million contract, I remember, and they split that with Raytheon that got the other $36 million, so it was like a $72 million contract in total, but that was a pilot phase. This seems like now they're moving on to the actual not only development phase but the implementation phase of this contract. This is really good stuff. So it doesn't seem, I'll put this in the chat for anyone who wants to read it. It doesn't seem like this is happening all at once with 1.5 billion. It seems like it's happening in phases, and eventually there'll be a much more larger 5-year deal for Palantir. Bitcoin right now, 68,000. So we're seeing Bitcoin here at this 68 level, 68,593. So Bitcoin continuing to inch higher from that $67,000 level. And we're seeing Palantir also get some momentum as well. S&P actually falling a little bit, about 0.51%. Robinhood 1624, CleanSpark up about 1%, IBIT up 1.6%, SoFi still getting crushed, down 8%. Look at Coinbase. Coinbase was just at 227, now it's at 236. Coinbase absolutely getting momentum from Bitcoin, and it makes a lot of sense. If Bitcoin's going to go up, they're going to make a lot of money. It's just what happens. And for everyone that was saying that, like Dan Dolev, one of those analysts that I actually respect when it comes to a bunch of things, but when he said Coinbase is just dead because of the ETFs, I was like, dude, that doesn't make any sense. And so they're going to print a lot of net income as Bitcoin goes higher. And as the supply shock for Bitcoin continues and the price goes higher, Coinbase makes a lot of money as being the toll booth, as being the number one centralized platform on the planet to be able to buy Bitcoin. That's going to increase their revenues. Here's Tom Lee last night talking about where he thinks Bitcoin is going to go.
68,000 for the first time in 3 years. Bitcoin's record high is 68,982. So actually right now is Bitcoin bull Tom Lee. Tom, we appreciate you coming on last week. We talked about your great calls. You made a very rational argument about the number of wallets out there. Seems like a Bitcoin record's imminent.
I agree, Brian. The old high, which was 3 years ago, is in a time when Bitcoin's fundamentals and sort of the structural support around it isn't as strong as it is today. So I think it's just a matter of time before that all-time high fails. And I think Bitcoin kind of makes that, it's a beeline back towards its long-term trend line, which, is probably 82,000 near term, 150,000 before year end, and then, of course, much, much higher numbers in the future.
I've never met an investment instrument that is so polarizing. I got people on Twitter or X that are like, it's the future of finance, it's the future of money, it's going to whatever. And then there's people that call it, it's fake, it's fraud, it's a joke, it's worthless. Why do you think Bitcoin is so polarizing?
Brian, I think there's many reasons, but the three that come to mind is, number one, it's a generational issue. I think in crypto, they refer to sort of the legacy financial folks as boomers because, Bitcoin is really being adopted and used by both younger folks, millennials and Gen Z, as well as people outside the U.S. Bitcoin's really useful to the unbanked outside the U.S. I think the second is that because Bitcoin is bootstrapped and, has a genesis block, it didn't grow inside this traditional financial system. So I think those who are used to the venture capital world or institutional access to products first before individuals find it, this is an anathema. It came out through the opposite way. And the third, of course, is that, Bitcoin represents trust in a trustless world. And, that's tough for people who are used to dealing with private banks.
There you go. Tom Lee's bullish.
Now is Tony
Tom Lee thinks that this thing's going higher and that they're going to see a lot more momentum in the context of Bitcoin. We got Bitcoin doing really well right now. 233 on Coinbase. Bitcoin right here, 68.5. It's trying to get to 69, which would be the all-time high. And psychologically, I think that's very important for it to get above that $69,000 range. Because if it does, and we see 70, and, people start to get more excited. So I think I just like Palantir, seeing that $20 for the first time after earnings was really special. And then seeing 25 was also really cool. So there are certain psychological price levers here. And ultimately, Bitcoin crossing those psychological levels would be important. Look at MicroStrategy. It's recovering. It was down 7%. Now it's down 2%. All the crypto companies are recovering a little bit. Let's go to the crypto playlist right here. CleanSpark's up. Coinbase is up. Marathon is flat, but it's up. Riot is down only 1%. Robinhood's getting the one that's hit the most, down 3.5%. Again, to me, we know their numbers are going to crush in Q1. So it is what it is. Market makers, manipulation, people taking profits. It is what it is. But that's what we're seeing. That one down 3.5%. Bitfarms down 0.62%. MicroStrategy 1.5%. Hut 8 Mining 0.24%. So a lot of these companies recovering. As Bitcoin goes higher, it's only good for these stocks. So whatever dip you see, and there could be an aggressive dip, if Bitcoin maintains their price, eventually these companies are going to reflect that in their earnings. Like all of them have a direct proportionate result of Bitcoin going up being good for earnings, which is what the street usually cares about, right? And so we'll have to see those play out over the next few months. Where would you buy Hood? I'm thinking right now. I like Hood at 16, but 1550 is not a horrible price. I think 14 is a great price. 1480, 1475. Do we get there? I don't know. We have to have here's the thing. If CPI comes in really hot, which is a CPI coming in hot would be next week, then yes, we would probably see the 14s. But I don't know how hot CPI is going to be, and I don't know if we're due for a pullback yet. Now, technically, I think everyone thinks we're due for a pullback, and so you could get Hood cheaper. You could get a lot of these stocks cheaper. But is it actually going to happen? I don't know, right? That's the hard part of trying to time this stuff. And so you got to kind of just figure out how to DCA. Tesla at 184. I bought Tesla at 187 yesterday. I'm thinking of buying 10 more shares today. Could have waited today for 184, but it is what it is. And so we got to see where it goes from there. What is Chris buying amid? Chris is interested in Snowflake right now. And we're going to have a podcast on Snowflake in a couple days. And so we'll share all the DD he's been looking at. Snowflake under 170 would be very attractive, in my opinion. I know it's a company that is whatever, and long-term, it's not anywhere near Palantir, but they do not deserve to be down almost 40%, guys. Like this is like they're still growing a lot, and they're probably sandbagging their numbers. So as a trade, that to me is stupid. That's Palo Alto Networks, quite frankly, going down 30%. So we'll see what happens with Snowflake. Apple still down, Tesla down, Apple 170, 14 cents away from being below 170. Facebook 493 was at 502 yesterday. PayPal's actually green somehow. Enphase is down 2%. Amazon down about 1.18%. Microsoft down 2%. Alibaba 72. That's a slightly green. Google. When do you buy Google? That's a good question in the chat. When do you buy Google? Do you buy Google at 125, at 123? When do you buy Google? I don't know when you buy Google, but at some point, I think people are going to be interested in buying Google. Steve's buying Google. I was talking to Steve yesterday on the phone. Steve's like, I'm buying Google. He's going to do an article on Google soon. Here is Dan Niles talking about rebranding the Magnificent Seven. He might have some thoughts here on Google as well.
All right. Our next guest says the Mag 7 should be rebranded as the Fantastic Four, with NVIDIA and Meta hitting fresh highs today. Amazon, Microsoft also solidly higher for the year. Satori Fund founder Dan Niles joins us now with more on where big tech is going from here. Dan, great to have you with us. And I just want to, start off with the debate that we've been having here on the desk as to whether or not you think this AI-led rally is anything like what we saw back during the internet bubble. I mean, you lived through those times, you worked through those times as well.
I mean, it is and it isn't. I guess the way I would look at it is the following. Netscape Navigator was launched in December of 1994. And so if you think about from that period, when did NASDAQ peak? It peaked in March of 2000. So it took you a good 5 years for that bubble to really build. And did you get corrections along the way and drawdowns? Of course you did. But like the peak took you 5 years. And so we only heard about ChatGPT in November of 2022. And so you're into this a year and a quarter. So from a time perspective, you haven't had really what you need for a good bubble to build up. Now, that doesn't mean that the NASDAQ can't go down 10 to 15% come this summer. Wouldn't surprise me at all. But from a valuation perspective, it's nowhere near that either, where if you look at Cisco, it was growing revenues at 59% in 2000. The forward multiple was about 138 at its peak, 138 times, and NVIDIA is trading at about like 38 times.
So he's making the argument we made on the chat that NVIDIA is not expensive, given that their growth is just so phenomenal that it's way better than Cisco back in 2000. All right, Bitcoin right here. Let's see if it can happen, folks. Let's just stare at this thing like it's fucking, like it's the greatest movie on earth. I mean, this thing is what, $200 away from all-time highs? What is exactly all-time highs? Let me see. What is Bitcoin all-time high? Because people debate it. 68,789, people say. If that's the case, we beat the all-time highs. But other people say it's 69,000. Yeah, someone else says it's 69,044. I think consensus is 69,000. That's consensus on Bitcoin all-time high. And you see how hard it is to get to the $69,000 level? You see how hard it is? You see the market makers trying to F with everybody's emotions right now. That is what's happening. That is absolutely what's happening right now. Like the market makers are not allowing people to see Bitcoin continue to do that well or continue to get to all-time highs. Because as soon as that happens, I mean, people get excited and things can go higher. So 69K says all-time highs. I think it's going to get beat up in this range right here. These extra $300 that we have to get there, it's going to get beat up. Market makers, they can barely find the Bitcoin supply to be able to loan out and to be able to allow people to buy. So I think they're struggling right now. Canadian is already all-time high. Yeah, Australia already passed all-time high. But we got to see if it can do it in the US. Adam says, admit, last time this happened, it doubled in 20 days. Yeah, that's the thing. I think a lot of people, or the people that control this thing, also are a little scared that if they let this thing, go back to its levels, it's going to crush through those levels and it's going to absolutely destroy. Ethereum just passed 3,800, folks. Ethereum was at 3,700 last night. Now it's at 3,800. So Ethereum doing great. It looks like all of the ETFs are green, so they're getting inflows. It looks like IBIT I'm looking at is green. They're up 2%. So ARKB is up 2%. All these guys are green. So we're just waiting for the final inflows to crack this bad boy up. That's it. Market makers can't stop it if Amit buys one coin. That is true. The power of one coin will work. I just don't have that much money lying around to be able to do it. Oh my God, look at it. Look at it. Look at it. It's like, it's $100 away, dude. It's $100 away. So these dips we're seeing on these crypto stocks, they're stupid. Like these dips on the crypto stocks are ridiculous. Like this thing's trying to get to all-time highs and the market's tearing down those stocks. Like, it's dumb. It's ridiculous. Now it's just got to crack through. Now it's just got to crack through. I feel like this is a momentous moment. We got to see this happen live. Like we got to see this happen. And we just got to see if it can get there. Yeah, I just got the Robinhood notification. Bitcoin's up 5%. It's literally $100 away from all-time highs. And now we just got to get there. Bitcoin is $100 away from all-time highs. Let's tweet that. It's going to be hard, dude. They're not going to let us get it that easily. They're not going to let it get us that easy. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Philip, the person who has basically been orange pilling me. You have to beat it into me. You know, Phillips, you sent me Bitcoin on Square for my birthday. You sent me like $25 of Bitcoin. So Philip's been part of the Bitcoin journey for a long, long time. Let's go to CNBC as well. See if they're covering this thing. Let's see if CNBC is covering this thing. I feel like you got to be covering this, dude. We're $100 away from all-time high. Like we are right there. No, CNBC is not covering it. We'll see what they do. Where are we at right now? 68,834. $100 away. $100 away. Oh, Shiba Inu, by the way, was up 90% yesterday. Shiba Inu was up 90% yesterday. Literally yesterday. Doge, Shiba Inu today is up 8%. In the past week, it's up 280%. Past month, it's up 350%. If you had just put 100 grand into Shiba Inu, you would have 300 grand in 1 month. That's how crazy these markets can get. That's how crazy these markets can get. Robinhood below 16. Robinhood is officially $15.99. Robinhood's getting beat up. So Robinhood's getting beat up. CleanSpark is recovering a little bit. Palantir is at 24. That one took a dip. CleanSpark up 0.43%. Market's really messing with these Bitcoin stocks, dude. They're really messing with these Bitcoin stocks. Oh my God. All right. So we had 68.9. We were about $80 away right there. Let's see. Why is the stock market down today? I think today in general is just like one of those days. It's a Tuesday where people take some profits to be. There's no real macro news that came out this morning. Target earnings were great. SoundHound's down 12%. Well, that's what happens when the market collapses. Not collapses, but when the market takes a little bit of a dip, obviously companies like SoundHound that are up for no reason, they will take a dip. New York Community is up 7%. New York Community was down 50% the past 2 weeks. Maybe the street's thinking, actually, these guys are not going to go bankrupt and these shares were really cheap. So that may be what you're seeing right there. And now we're just waiting for Bitcoin to do what it needs to do. Jess on Twitter, she says, just bought another 1,000 in Bitcoin, maybe moved it 0.00001 penny for us. Let's see, dude. Let's see. I feel like it's got to happen. Oh, there we go. Look at that. 68,920, 68,930, 68,940, 68,930, 68,950, 68,940, 68,9, 68,912, 68,926, 68,919, 68,920. It will not go above 68,950, dude. It's like stuck there. Oh, so there we go. 68,950, 69,60, 68,950, 68,940, 69,950, 68,960, 68,9. We need 69,970 now. We need 68,970 now. 68,970. There you go. 68,970. There you go. 68,970. All right. Now we need 68,980. 68,9 still 70. 68,973. 68,976. 68,990. Oh boy, that's 69. Uh-oh, it was there for a second. We got to ring the bell. It was there for a second. All right, so we touched it. Obviously, there was some resistance there, but the fact that we touched it means that there's inflows coming in. There's buy-side pressure coming in. It literally just needs to get above those $50 to get to 69. But we touched it. We haven't touched that since 2021, dude. 2021. It's there. It's ready to be taken. It's absolutely ready to get eaten up. Robinhood also 16.18. Dude, Robinhood was just 15.99. Now Robinhood 16.18. There's absolutely some nonsense going on with these crypto stocks because the market makers know that this shit's fucking blasting at this point. So I think a lot of these companies are going to benefit from that, even if they're not in the short term right now. Ethereum 38.20. Yeah, Bitcoin, it looks like dude, it wants 69. It's like $20 away. We just need to see that happen and then have it be stable. Have it be stable right here. Let's see. 69. All right, we're at 69 officially. Let's see how long it lasts. We're at 69 officially. There you go, 69. There it is. It's done. Now let's see how long it holds. Let's give it a couple minutes. We got to give it a couple minutes to see if it could happen. If it's real or if it's just like your first love who's going to break your heart when she tells you that she just wants to be friends. Let's see if it's actually, I'm speaking from personal experience here. Let's see if it actually can retain $69,000. Let's see. Don't you think it's weird that the all-time high is 69? Yeah, it's very weird, dude. It's the biggest meme ever. Like, it's the biggest meme in the world that 69,000 is the all-time high for Bitcoin. Absolutely. But I think it's meant to be. Watch Robinhood. Where's Hood? Hood right now. Palantir 24.31. By the way, Palantir getting a little bit of a boost. The crypto companies I'm looking at right now, Hood is at 16.28. They're up. They recovered from that 15.99. Wow, that 15.99 dip lasted for like 2 seconds, dude. And that thing went straight up. CleanSpark up 5%. CleanSpark $17. Coinbase 239. Coinbase 240. $10 away from IPO price. MicroStrategy is down 1%. And the rest of the miners are up. All right, look at that. 69,100. We have some breathing room, folks. We have some breathing room. 69,100. There's actually some room for us to fall a little bit. Yo, if we hit 70,000 today, dude. Oh boy. Mitch, thank you for being here. Thank you for joining. If we hit 70,000 today, we need to hit 70,000 today. We need to see this thing go for it, baby. Dude, if we can get there. Now, 70,000 is not going to be easy because psychologically also, I think that's going to be hard. That would be fun. Is there news? My stocks recovered. Yeah, the whole market kind of just did a U-turn, guys. The whole market kind of just recovered. If you look at it, I mean, there's still some red, but I mean, Bitcoin getting up there, I guess, is a catalyst for the market a little bit, right? Apple's not down as much anymore. Tesla's not down. Not down as much anymore. Oh boy, Bitcoin just fell down. Oh boy, you saw that? 68. Wow, Bitcoin just got hit. Damn, it got hit. It got hit hard, dude. Wow. There you go. Look at the red candle. It got hit. 69,304 is where we topped. And then Kapui comes straight down. Oh boy. There you go. Oh, there was PMI data? Oh, I didn't even see that. Let me pull it up. Sorry. PMI, ISM Services PMI fell to 52.6 from a 4-month high of 53.4. This is good. That means less inflation. That's what happened. So for those that TLDR PMI coming down after being high for 4 months at 53.4, that means there's going to be less services and goods inflation. Technically, I mean, look, the point is if you're above 50, you're still expanding versus contracting. If we were below 50, there might be a little bit of a concern there. But if it's below the 4-month high, I think the street's like, okay, that's going to make inflation a little bit, that's going to help inflation ultimately start to come down. That's why the market probably rebounded at 10 a.m. There you go. That was a nice red candle. And now we're trying to get that green candle come back. So 69,304, there was a ton of resistance that just piled this bad boy right down $2,000. And we saw this last night. It went from 68 to 65. I mean, it happened pretty aggressively. And so we're seeing that kind of now at this range also start to be a bit more aggressive. And we're seeing some downside. There you go. Some downside here at 68,303. Why it's pink and not red candles, I don't know. I don't know why they do that. Oh, what's happening with CrowdStrike? CrowdStrike had earnings today? I thought they were after hours. I'm pretty sure am I wrong about that? CrowdStrike's down 5%. Hold on, let me see. I don't even think they have earnings today. I thought it was Wednesday. CrowdStrike. Oh no, it's after close. Okay, it's today. We'll listen to their call today. So it's after hours. Okay, not bad. Not bad at all. So there we go, folks. The momentum has died off. 67,000 on Bitcoin. We're probably not going to see that run back up to 69,000 anytime soon. It might take some time. So the reason CrowdStrike's down 4% is probably because the broader market's down and the street's expecting. Look, CrowdStrike is at a $70 billion market cap. They're up 90% in 6 months. They are priced really well. Now they did fall from 338, but I could imagine that CrowdStrike has a great earnings and they still fall, just like Palo Alto. That could happen. But we'll see what happens today after hours. SoFi down 8% as well. SoFi is getting a beating. If those that want to know about SoFi, go to the 2-minute mark of this live stream. It's about to end right now, and you guys can watch me talk about SoFi. I have the chapter saved. The dilution is not even dilution. It's not that big of a deal. It's convertible debt, and if it does become dilution, it's 2029. So there's plenty of time for that. So I don't think the street should be that negative about it, but the street doesn't like hearing that stuff anyway. So that's why it's down. Okay, folks, that's it for me. Exciting day. I'll be back on the market close. Right now, Bitcoin 68,245. We'll see where it can keep going from there. But right now, it is being rejected at that all-time high. At least we got there. So now we'll see where it goes and how it happens. KQ says it might take some time. Bitcoin will be like, hold my beer. Robinhood right now, I'm looking at Robinhood. It is currently at... where is Robinhood? $16.09. And Palantir is at 24. Palantir right now, 24.12 in the pre-market, or not the pre-market, as the market opens, up about 0.37%. All right, there you go. SoundHound is at 4. Yeah, look, SoundHound, this is the problem with chasing. These companies are not worth $2 billion, even if retail wants to buy them up. So yeah, you're going to see collapses on things like SoundHound. Great earnings. 80% year-over-year growth. Not deserving of probably a $2 billion market cap. Word of the day, and then we'll end it out. Word of the day is modus operandi.
Modus operandi.
I got that right. I got that pretty right. Modus operandi. One's usual way of doing something. Okay? By studying the wildlife's biologist modus operandi, conservationists hope to replicate successful conservation efforts. Understanding the enemy's modus operandi is crucial in developing effective counter strategies. Bitcoin's modus operandi is getting to all-time high and then getting hit by resistance. And so we're going to have a change in our modus operandi in order for Bitcoin to not be stuck at those levels. All right, there we go. Thank you, everybody, for being here. 1 p.m., we will have Lunch with Amit, episode number 2. I'm going to have someone join me talking all about Bitcoin. So think about it as a beginner's course to Bitcoin. If you wanted to know what Bitcoin is, why is it important, why are people buying it, what is the value of these ETFs, all that stuff, I'm going to have someone break down the sort of beginner's crash course to Bitcoin, and that'll happen 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. Lunch with Amit, and then we'll be back for the market close at 3:45. That's it. Oh, what's your MO? That's where it comes from? Holy crap. I never knew what MO standed for. Okay, modus operandi is what's your MO. Dude, that's like super cool. I didn't know that. Thank you for that, Gary. Thank you for that, Poor Man Jones. I did not know, and Molov, MO. Think of that. I bet none of you knew MO was modus operandi, except the 3 people that said it was an MO. See, that's a big deal. That's cool. That's good for the word of the day. All right, everybody. I'll see you guys at lunch, 1 p.m. Make sure you have some lunch. We'll be there in a couple hours. Bye, everyone.